Welcome to First Sleep Aid, calm stories to help you unwind, learn, and fall asleep. From true crime to curious facts and thoughtful ideas, always softly spoken. Subscribe now and take a deep breath. You're in good hands.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into the career and the lasting impact of Dirk Nowitzki. He's someone who, well, fundamentally changed how we think about basketball, what's even possible.
Absolutely. And maybe the best place to start to really get a feel for it is the end, or at least an end. June 12th, 2011, Miami.
Game 6, NBA Finals. The atmosphere. You could just feel it. The heat, this new super team, LeBron, Wade, Bosh, they were supposed to win. Everyone thought so.
Right. Heavy favorites. But then, with about 3 minutes left, you see this tall figure, Mavericks jersey, just walking off the court.
Yeah, no big celebration, no, screaming or fist pumping. It was quiet, almost internal, like he was processing this huge weightlifting.
Exactly. That was the moment Dirk Nowitzki did what so many people doubted he could. He delivered a championship to Dallas.
And in doing that, he kind of quietly rewrote the whole story for European players in the NBA. It was a win built on years of, well, just showing up and doing the work. Deliberate, complete.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because Dirk's story isn't really about that instant flashy success, not blinding athleticism right out of the gate.
No, it's more this steady narrative, this shy teenager from Würzburg, Germany, slowly becoming this respected global icon.
He really shifted what we even considered greatness in basketball. It became about, well, the craft, the skill, this incredible loyalty, and a quiet fire, not just endorsements or off-court drama.
Right, it's a story of a guy who just stayed. He stayed put. He adapted his game over and over, and he led, but quietly, by example.
He definitely had his share of misses, big losses, times he really bled for it on the court.
But ultimately, he stood tallest. Not because he jumped the highest or ran the fastest, but because of this unwavering commitment to his unique game, to his teammates.
It all started, really, in a pretty unremarkable place.
Yeah, a quiet gym. You can almost smell the old wood, right? Just a boy, his coach, and this shot that just kept getting higher and higher.
Taking it back to Würzburg, mid-90s, it's kind of amazing how quiet those beginnings were for such a huge career.
Yeah, Würzburg, medieval city, cathedrals, very quiet. Not exactly where you'd expect a basketball revolution to start.
But inside the Immanuel Kant Gymnasium, there was this gym. Stayed open late, not for games, not for fans, just repetition.
And that's where you find him. 16 years old, Dirk Nowitzki. Tall, skinny, unassuming kid. Quiet, kind, maybe a little awkward, still growing into that frame.
And you gotta remember the context. 1990s Germany. Basketball wasn't the main thing, not at all.
Football was king, absolutely. Dirk's first interests were, what, tennis, skiing?
Yeah, and reading, drawing. He was more introspective, not this hyper-competitive kid right away.
Until he meets Holger Geschwindner. That feels like the turning point.
Definitely. A former national team player, sure, but also a physicist with this really unique approach to coaching.
Not your typical drills and shouting coach.
No, Holger was thinking about angles, force, geometry. He saw the jump shot like a math problem almost, or a symphony.
And he saw something in Dirk.
Not just the height, but the willingness. That was key. Dirk was willing to listen, to work.
And their work sounds almost meditative. Just silence, the swish of the neck, squeak of shoe.
It's shot after shot, paying attention to tiny details, footwork, balance, timing. Holger filmed everything.
Like a scientist.
Yeah.
Analyzing every frame, correcting these minute things.
Yeah, and you can imagine other people maybe didn't get it, maybe some laughs, some skepticism.
But Dirk kept at it. Driven by what? Just the feeling of a perfect shot.
Yeah. That breath-like release, the clean swish. School, homework, gym, repeat.
And the improvement was fast.
Really fast. By 17, he's out shooting everyone in town. By 18, it looked effortless. Then by 19, the NBA starts calling.
But for all that fame, it was the stillness, right, that defined him. Not rushing, comfortable being alone, working. He just seemed unchanging, even as his world was about to explode.
And years later, he'd talk about that small gym, not as some place of glory, but where he learned how to work, how to think, how to shoot. The foundation.
Holger Geschwindner. He really deserves his own chapter here. Such an unconventional figure.
Totally. Former player, yes, but also a jazz musician, amateur physicist, a basketball philosopher, maybe mismatched clothes, quoting Nietzsche 1 minute, Newton the next.
And he saw basketball as rhythm, geometry.
Exactly. Art. And when he first saw Dirk, He didn't see a guaranteed future MVP. He saw this tall, curious kid, coachable, like an unformed canvas.
And crucially, he didn't try to fit Dirk into a box.
No, he built the system around Dirk. That's the genius of it. Their training. Silence, repetition, relentless refinement. No yelling, no slogans.
Pretty much. Filming, frame-by-frame analysis, balance, elbow alignment, follow-through, obsessive detail.
And the one-legged fadeaway that came out of this.
That's the story. Born from physics experiments, really. The idea of creating an unblockable shot based on logic, on geometry, not just muscle.
But Holger wasn't just about the mechanics. He was pushing Dirk in other ways, too. Oh, yeah. Read poetry, listen to jazz, paint. See the game as art, not just a battle. He warned him about ego, about winning, needing to come from the right place.
That quote is great. Basketball is an art form. Your job is to find your rhythm and let others feel it.
Sums it up perfectly. Now, people thought Holger was eccentric, maybe delusional.
Sure, keeping this kid hidden away in Würzburg, doing weird drills.
Right. While scouts are measuring verticals, Holger's talking angles. They want aggression. Holger preaches patience. They want visibility. Holger wants quiet practice.
But he was focused on Dirk becoming Dirk, not what someone else expected.
Exactly. He taught him how to become a legend without making a lot of noise about it.
It's interesting, this idea of greatness sometimes being hidden, not chased. Dirk didn't exactly embrace being tall early on.
No, it sounds like it was mostly a burden for him growing up. Towering over classmates, standing out when he didn't want to, clothes never fitting right, just unavoidable visibility.
Especially when he was naturally quiet, reserved, like drawing, reading, just wanted quiet.
And at the cultural context, Würzburg, football town, being tall and playing basketball.
Yeah.
He was different, an outsider.
So there was teasing.
Yeah, first maybe just for the height, then later for focusing on basketball. Even on his early teams, DJK Würzburg, he wasn't the loud guy, the strongest, the fastest. He was just there, pretty much. Just present, shooting, watching, thinking, and always growing. Past 6'6", at 16, pushing 7 feet by 17.
And he started dominating youth tournaments, but didn't crave the attention.
Didn't seem like it. He just wanted to feel comfortable in his own skin. Holger understood that. He saw the reluctance, not as laziness, but self-protection.
So Holger helped him build a game that spoke for itself. No need for words, chest beating, highlight reels.
Exactly. Rhythm, skill, repetition, the slow growth of self-understanding, not applause. Dirk just wanted to master the shot. That was enough for him then.
But the NBA scouts started noticing anyway.
Became unavoidable. So this boy who didn't want to be tall steps onto this huge stage. He never really saw it.
Because he'd built this strength underneath the shyness. Discipline, character, that unique game.
Yeah, he became unmissable. Not by changing who he was, but by fully embracing it. He let greatness find him.
Okay, so he makes it to the NBA. Draft night, 1998. You'd think it's the dream beginning.
Yeah, but for Dirk, it felt maybe more like exile. The immediate message was kind of, you're not ready for this.
Vancouver, June 24th. 19 years old, dark suit, cameras flashing, languages he doesn't understand. He looks uncertain.
Doesn't seem to be smiling much in those pictures. Then he gets picked 9th by Milwaukee. Crowd reaction is mixed.
Murmurs, some cheers. A lot of people just didn't know him, questioning the 7-footer from Germany who shoots threes but maybe can't dunk.
And then boom, traded immediately. To Dallas with Pat Garrity for Robert Tractor Trailer.
Dallas was rebuilding big time. Dirk gets dropped in as this experiment.
And the headlines weren't kind. Too soft, too slow, too European. That label again.
Plus, the locker room is skeptical. Brutal media, impatient fans.
Absolutely. And remember, this is pre-mainstream internet NBA. Foreign players were rare. Respect was even rarer.
So he felt isolated. No friends nearby, language barrier, catching slang, sarcasm, trash talk.
Eating alone, calling home constantly, reports of him crying in his apartment. It sounds incredibly lonely.
He wanted quiet, and suddenly he's got this overwhelming attention and he's struggling on the court.
Rough rookie season. 8 points a game, shooting poorly, getting benched, pushed around physically. Felt like a mismatch in a bad way.
Opponents laughing at his defense, fouling a lot, getting out-muscled.
Yeah, all of it. And for the first time, really, since Würzburg, you hear about real self-doubt creeping in.
But what pulled him through?
Work. Always the work. Late nights shooting with Holger, who'd moved to Dallas with him, watching tape, lifting weights, staying quiet, waiting.
He wasn't built for that instant splash. He was built for the slow burn, the gradual climb.
Exactly. The NBA wanted him to fit their mold, but eventually, the league had to adapt to him.
That first year, 1998-99, It wasn't just about learning the plays, was it?
No, it was learning how to exist in that whole new world, constantly being reminded, subtly or not, that he didn't quite belong yet.
Dallas itself must have felt alien. Loud, fast, different from Würzburg.
Totally. The language barrier, again, slang, jokes going over his head, TV sounding different. Those calls home must have been a lifeline, searching for some quiet.
And the game itself.
Okay.
Faster, much more physical.
Way faster. Teammates didn't fully trust him yet, so you see hesitation, maybe slow on a screen, late on rotation, passing up an open shot because he's overthinking, doubting.
That 8.2 points average in the lockout year, he was a star in Germany, now he's a question mark in Dallas.
You can imagine the fan groans when he checked in sometimes, local radio making jokes about missing tractor trailer, so much impatience for results.
But Dirk's reaction, no drama, no demanding shots, just work.
Exactly. Back to the gym, late nights, tape with Holger, weights, shooting drills, slowly learning the language, the locker room codes, finding his own rhythm within the noise.
Never complained. Just seemed to have this deep conviction underneath the doubt. I'm not ready yet, but I will be.
Yeah, his goal wasn't just stardom. It was becoming himself authentically in a place that didn't understand him yet.
Dallas had a forgettable 1931 season that year. Dirk was similarly obscure.
But beneath the surface, something was happening. That quiet survival mode, it allowed him to eventually get down to the real work.
And then someone arrives who kind of helps unlock things for him. Steve Nash.
Yeah, this unexpected pairing. The floppy-haired Canadian point guard and the tall German kid, they found this rhythm together that really changed everything for Dallas.
So while Dirk wasn't finding his voice necessarily, he found someone who helped him speak through basketball.
That's a great way to put it. And Nash had faced his own critics, too small, too soft, too foreign. He saw something familiar in Dirk.
Another thinker. A rhythm player who needed space and time.
Exactly. They started training together constantly. Off days, shoot-arounds, road trips. And this chemistry developed. Intuitive, not flashy.
Dirk's pick and pop. Nash hitting him perfectly in stride. No wasted motion, no ego.
And they bonded off the court, too. Music, philosophy, life stuff. Both felt like outsiders determined to prove people wrong.
Building trust. That seems rarer than just hype. And the Dallas media was still skeptical.
Largely, yeah. But things were changing behind the scenes. Mark Cuban was about to arrive with big ideas, big promises.
And the team itself was starting to bet on international guys, on patience, a fan base slowly learning Dirk's name.
Right. And Dirk's game took a big leap in year 2. Over 17 points a game, shooting looked more confident, running the floor better. He started playing like Dirk.
Those long jumpers, the early fadeaways, stretching the floor in ways people hadn't seen from a big man.
And with Nash feeding him the ball, making those reads, the game started to feel like it fit him.
They didn't win a title together yet, obviously.
No, but they built the foundation, this friendship, this vision of two foreigners who were kind of ahead of their time. They turned Dallas from this forgotten franchise into one with a real future.
Dirk's quote about Nash is powerful. I don't know if I would have made it without Nash. He understood the game, and he understood me.
It really highlights how important that kind of connection can be. Every great player probably needs someone who sees their potential, even through the initial silence or struggles.
Let's talk about that fadeaway. The visual is just iconic now.
Instantly recognizable, that pivot, the lean, one dribble, plant, left leg rising, the high arc, soft drop, over outstretched hands, time and time again.
Became his absolute signature. Just unstoppable for years.
And like we said, it wasn't improvised magic. It was rooted in science, designed with Holger's physics background.
Back of those cold Würzburg gyms, balance points, jump angles, release trajectories, relentless repetition.
He was practicing laws of motion, essentially, until he became the shot.
And it defied expectations, right? A big man shot that moved like a guard's. High risk, high skill, but delivered with this routine calm.
Its effectiveness wasn't about escaping pressure, but creating space within the pressure. It was subtle.
And it became his language on the court.
Totally. Leaning away from double teams, sinking into that rhythm when the crowd was roaring, rising up when the shot clock was low instead of forcing a drive. Every make was like this quiet statement. You can't reach me here.
And other players noticed. Durant, Kobe, LeBron. They started adding versions of it to their games.
Yeah, recognizing it as Dirk's shot. It was more than just a move. It was a manifesto. His style, his approach to life almost, soft-spoken, precise, built to rise under pressure.
It showed greatness could be shaped Physics in motion, poetry in silence.
It also completely changed how people thought about his position, the power forward.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s. Power forward meant brute strength.
Yeah.
Garnett, Duncan, Weber, Sheed Wallace.
Exactly. Back to the basket, post moves, physicality, paint dominance, setting hard screens, mid-range muscle.
Then Dirk arrives, tall, yeah, but lean.
Mm-hmm.
Face-up game, shooter, finesse player. A curiosity, maybe even a liability at first.
But his skills created problems defenses hadn't really encountered before from that spot. Give him space, he shoots over you. Crowd him, he could pass.
He wasn't explosive, but he opened up the floor like crazy, pulling those big, physical defenders way out from the basket.
Created huge spacing issues. What do? Follow him out to the three-point line and leave the paint wide open.
Or stay home in the paint and just let him rain threes over you. Tough choice.
And he didn't totally abandon the paint, but he used it differently. Fadeaway post-ups, driving past slower defenders, that pick and pop instead of just pick and roll.
Defenses had to stretch, and eventually they'd crack.
And you saw the league slowly shift. Coaches started teaching their bigs to shoot, to handle the ball, to space the floor. The term stretch four became common.
A term that barely existed before Dirk.
Pretty much. He didn't invent the jumper, didn't invent the power forward position, obviously, but he made them interact in a completely new way.
Turned the most physical position into something more cerebral. Angles, footwork, touch, discipline, balance.
The guys who came after, they played in a world Dirk helped create. He showed a big man could lead through stillness, that skill could beat pure strength. He reshaped the game because it didn't quite fit him initially.
Okay, fast forward to 2006. Dirk is a certified superstar by now. Doubts silenced, carried the Mavs past the Spurs, dropped 50 in a playoff game, leads Dallas to their first finals. This feels like his moment.
It really did. They're up 2-0 against the Miami Heat, the new big three of LeBron, Wade, Bosh. Dallas looked better, more experienced, more composed. Dirk looked unstoppable, 6 quarters away from the title.
And then the collapse. Game 3, they blow a 13-point lead with 6 minutes left. Wade leads Miami back. Dallas loses.
That was the turning point. Miami wins Game 4. Game 5 is a heartbreaker, triple overtime. Dirk misses that crucial late free throw.
Game 6, back in Dallas.
Yeah.
Should have been their coronation, but it's just unraveled. Miami wins the series 4-2.
And Dirk's reaction, stunned. No crying, no arguing, just disappears into the tunnel. A guy who got so close and couldn't finish it.
And the criticism came back, hard and fast. Not clutch, can't lead, too soft. All the old doubts, questioning his legacy.
But his response, silence, no excuses, no lashing out, goes back to Germany, trains harder, stays quiet.
But something shifted inside him, right? That pain from 2006. It didn't break him.
No, it settled in, not as a wound, but as a promise. A promise that if he got back there, he'd know how to finish.
He said later, that loss never left me. It taught me what I didn't yet know how to finish and how much it costs.
Exactly. So 2006 wasn't the end of his rise. It was the start of a deeper, harder, quieter, wiser Dirk, one who would be ready next time.
After that 2006 heartbreak, the NBA landscape started changing fast. Superstars teaming up, LeBron to Miami, Garnett and Allen to Boston. Loyalty seemed less common.
Yeah, a definite shift towards impatience maybe,
Yeah.
players wanting to win now, but Dirk's story goes completely against that trend.
He didn't move, didn't demand a trade, didn't publicly ask for more help, didn't flirt with other teams. He just doubled down on Dallas.
Even after they had the league's best record in 2007, he wins MVP, and then that shocking first-round loss to the Warriors.
The criticism flared up again, and he accepts the MVP trophy quietly, almost privately, focused on getting better, not celebrating.
The next few years were tough. Near misses, playoff exits, roster changes, coaching changes. But Dirk was the constant.
Why stay? What was the motivation?
Loyalty. Simple as that, it seems. Dallas believed in him first, took that chance back in '98. He felt he owed them the same belief.
Building continuity versus chasing a super team. A different approach.
And he became part of the fabric of Dallas, beyond just basketball. Relationships with staff, local restaurants, charity work, always the same practice habits. A quiet anchor.
Every offseason the question came up, will Dirk leave?
And every time, the answer was no. Team-friendly deals, quiet recruiting behind the scenes, trusting the process.
While younger stars jumped around, Dirk stayed. And that earned him this incredible respect in Dallas. Not for chasing greatness, but patiently building it, waiting for it on his own terms.
So when the championship finally came, it meant so much more because of where it was won and because of the guy who refused to leave until it happened.
Those 4 years between the MVP and the title run, 2007 to 2010, they must have been frustrating. Consistent disappointment.
Extremely frustrating. Roster churn kid comes back, Chandler arrives later, Howard leaves, Karen Butler gets hurt. Young guys flash potential, then fade. Dirk's the one constant.
And meanwhile, the rest of the league is thriving. LeBron's ascent, Kobe winning titles, the Celtics' big three, Lakers reloading, Spurs being Spurs.
Right. And Dirk just keeps scoring, averaging 25 and 08, getting more efficient, adding strength. But the team couldn't quite get over the hump. Repeated early playoff exits.
Fan doubts must have been growing. Is this it? Will he ever win here? Should we trade him?
You heard that talk, but Dirk never flinched. No demands, no blaming. He just carried the load.
And developed as a leader, too. Became more vocal, maybe, but still quiet.
Yeah, leading by example mostly, but also stepping up vocally when needed. Playing through injuries, through doubts. Just resilient.
And the affection for him deepened during these tough years.
Absolutely. Fans loved him. Teammates respected his habits immensely. Opponents knew they still couldn't stop that fadeaway.
No cryptic tweets, no team switching, no chasing trends. Just getting better, keeping the Mavs relevant.
So by 2010, he's 31. Still great, still waiting. But the waiting hadn't made him desperate or bitter. It had made him ready. Dangerous, even.
Team culture. It's talked about a lot in sports, but what does it actually mean? How did Dallas build theirs?
It wasn't slogans or money, really. It was built around Dirk, organically.
He never asked to be the leader, but he led anyway, just by showing up.
Exactly. Late nights, early film sessions, practicing hard even after losses. No excuses. Took the blame, deflected the credit.
And everyone else followed that lead.
Pretty much. Young players came in and saw the standard, immediately saw Dirk there early, working. Veterans played harder, listened more, just out of respect for him.
Even with Cuban modernizing everything, providing resources, the foundation was Dirk's influence.
Yeah, and his character played a huge part. Joking with teammates, being kind to rookies, tipping staff generously, knowing people's names.
Asking for more gym time instead of rest days. More shooting, less load management.
In an era obsessed with personal branding, Dirk somehow made humility cool. It fostered this family feel, trust, stability. It always felt like his team, no matter who else was on the roster.
Former teammates always talk about how inspiring he was.
That's culture right there. When your best player shows up early, leaves last, and leads by quiet example, that's the feeling he created.
Okay, let's get to the 2010-11 season. Dirk's 32. Most people think he's maybe past his peak. The Mavs are not seen as serious contenders.
Definitely not. No other huge superstars, no big three, just this collection of veterans, specialist guys who believed.
Kidd, near 40. Chandler on defense. Marion's versatility. Terry's confidence off the bench. Beraya, the spark plug.
And Dirk, who hadn't declined, maybe even quietly improved in key areas. They had a solid 57-win season, but still, doubts heading into the playoffs. Hashtag 3 seed in the West.
First round against Portland. Tough physical series. Expected to be a battle, maybe even an upset.
Mavs go up 2-0, then blow that huge lead in Game 4 of the Brandon Roy game. Old doubts resurface.
But Dirk stays steady. 33 points in Game 6. They win the series 4-2.
Next up, the defending champion Lakers. Kobe, Phil Jackson, the dynasty. Predicted to be a short series for LA.
And Dallas responds with a sweep. 4-0.
Stunning. Including that 122-point explosion in Game 4, Terry hit 9 threes, Barriera carved them up, Dirk was just consistently great. No big celebration, just next.
Western Conference Finals against the Young Thunder. Durant, Westbrook, Harden. Fast, fearless.
And Dirk opens Game 1 with maybe the game of his life. 48 points, perfect 24 for 24 from the free throw line, just effortless perfection.
Dallas wins that series in 5. Suddenly, they're in the finals again.
And the perception shifted. Maybe they weren't overwhelming talent-wise, but they were unshakable. A true team, unified, with one mission, fix 2006.
Dirk was playing the best basketball of his life. Clarity, control, hitting impossible shots, looking completely unbothered.
Yeah, the league finally realized these guys are serious.
The finals rematch against Miami. LeBron, Wade, Bosh. The coronation that turned into a correction. The Heat had all the swagger, youth, athleticism, perceived destiny.
Dallas had memories, scars, and Dirk.
Game 1 in Miami. Heat win. Tight, tense. LeBron and Wade celebrate early. Dirk plays with a torn finger tendon, scores 27, doesn't say a word about it.
Game 2, Miami leads by 15 with 7 minutes left. Looks like 2 errors, but Dallas claws back. Dirk scores the last 9 points, including that clutch lefty layup for the win. 95-93, series tied.
Games 3 and 4 in Dallas. Dirk drops 34 in a Game 3 loss. Then Game 4, he plays through a 101 degree fever.
Yeah, clearly sick. Still gets 10 in the fourth, hits the game winner, 86-83, series tied 2-2, incredible toughness.
Game 5 becomes legendary. Terry Borea, kid, contribute big time, but Dirk's the anchor. 29 points, Mavs hit 13 threes, ball movement's beautiful, Dallas wins by 9, goes up 3-2, one win away.
Game 6, back in Miami, pressure mounting, LeBron and Wade struggle. Dirk starts incredibly slow, 1 for 12 shooting in the first half.
You think, oh no, is it happening again?
But he adjusts. Pull-ups, fadeaways, baseline jumpers. Finishes with 21 points, 11 rebounds. Terry goes off for 27. Kid controls the game. Borea penetrates. Mavs win 105-95. Championship.
And Dirk's celebration, walking off before the buzzer, disappearing into the tunnel alone.
Yeah, to process it. Relief, not just joy. Letting go of years of that quiet burden.
He comes back composed for the trophy, the Finals MVP award. No big speech, no theatrics.
It wasn't about revenge, it was redemption. The Heat would win their titles later, LeBron became the legend he is. But in 2011, Dirk and the Mavs rewrote the ending. Patience, trust, grace.
That final moment of Game 6, the walk-off. Let's linger there for a second. The final seconds ticking down in Miami. Mavs about to win against this untouchable team, on the road against huge stars. Improbable.
The contrast is amazing. The bench is going nuts, fans screaming, Terry waving towels, Borea hugging Chandler,
Right.
And Dirk is just walking.
Towards the tunnel. Before the buzzer, no camera cue, no choreography, just a tall guy in blue disappearing.
No fist pump, no signature move, just
Wait.
breath, space,
Yeah.
release.
It wasn't about showing the world anything, was it? It felt like it was for him.
Exactly. Letting go of 2006, specific missed shots, years of criticism, the weight of carrying in the franchise, all of it.
He had a moment alone in the locker room first, apparently. Tears of release, not dramatic joy.
Then came back out, composed, brief hugs, lifted the trophy.
But the defining image, maybe, is that silent walk-off. Job done. No need for a big show. Just peace. He earned the league's respect, got the ultimate prize, took it quietly, and left the stage for a moment.
It's interesting to think about Dirk's identity in the league. Race, nationality. He never seemed to court being a symbol, but roles get assigned, right?
Especially then. Late 90s, early 2000s. Tall, white, quiet, European. That wasn't the typical franchise player mold in the post-Jordan NBA. Swagger, American toughness, cultural fluency were prized.
And here comes this kid from Germany, oversized suits, shy, broken English, seemingly uninterested in fame, didn't fit. So questions arose about toughness, suitability.
But he didn't fight the labels. He just ignored them.
Pretty much. Focused on work, listening, effort. And gradually, as the skill became undeniable, the labels just faded. Foreign Project became damn good player, then superstar.
But there was always maybe a subtext. White, but never called scrappy. European, but not just finesse. Consistently great, but harder to categorize.
And he never postured, never performed an identity, he just played. Observed the league's dynamics, the different treatment of black players, respected their battles.
His authenticity came through. Playing tennis, listening to German hip-hop, reading, practicing late, not trying to fit in, just being himself. And that earned respect across the board.
Luka Doncic said, well, Dirk paved the way for Europeans just by being genuine, by being Dirk.
He didn't transcend race or culture maybe, but moved through it with humility, quietly helped reshape the league.
And his leadership style, also quiet, right? Not loud speeches, but consistency. Presence with intention, humor, hard work.
Those contradictions made him relatable. 7-footer with a dad joke sense of humor. Perfectionist, but never belittling. Global icon carrying his own bag.
Exactly. Teammates saw it every day, paying for dinners, picking up rookies, helping guys practice even after a loss.
21 seasons in Dallas. Hundreds of teammates. The consistent feedback is he never acted superior.
Had that playful, goofy side, too. Off-key singing, pranks, letting friends give him those terrible haircuts before the final.
But intense focus during games.
Total trust. On the court, give him the last shot. Off the court, someone you could talk to privately. Cared about teammates' lives, families.
He wasn't building a brand. He was just being genuine.
Yeah.
You saw that on retirement night 2019. Crying not just for leaving the court, but leaving his team, his city. And they cried with him.
That's lived leadership. More impactful than forced displays. You hear it from Kidd, Borea, Nash, Luka, how he influenced their belief in playing with grace, leading with care. His presence still looms large in that franchise.
His journey also involved carrying 2 flags in a way. Leaving Germany as this lanky kid, returning as a national icon.
Huge figure in Germany, symbol of excellence, global ambassador, admired for his character as much as his stats.
Always went back in the summers. Youth camps, charity, family. Played for the national team whenever asked Eurobasket silver in '05. World Cup bronze in '02. No complaints, just honored the German jersey.
Then there's the American journey. Didn't have the built-in NBA mythology, the cultural shortcuts. But he brought qualities that needed no translation. Work ethic, humility, greatness without ego.
The 2011 title really cemented him as one of us in Dallas. Not because he changed, but because the fans' perception evolved. They saw his true quality.
And he's a unique first European to spend his entire career with one NBA team. Became synonymous with Dallas, street named after him, statue outside the arena.
He never had to choose, did he? Carried Germany and the U.S. with the same quiet dedication, gentle spirit, iconic shot. He was just Dirk.
After the 2011 title, he'd achieved everything. Most stars might have looked towards retirement soon after, but Dirk stayed.
Through losing seasons, surgeries, declining numbers, he just stayed.
And notably, no demands for farewell tours, no big retirement announcements year after year. Just kept showing up. Same routine, same demeanor.
The stats faded. The minutes shrank from 2012 to 2019. But his legend grew, didn't it? Because of how he handled the decline.
Exactly. No seeking sympathy, no excuses, just quiet endurance. A steady presence for teammates, a symbol of home for fans.
Reaching 30,000 points in 2017, huge milestone, met with his typical modest reaction.
Why stay? Again, loyalty to the city, the jersey, the people who believed in him from day one.
By that final season, 2018-19, his body was clearly failing him, but the league knew. It became this organic farewell tour. Every arena, tributes, standing ovations.
Which Dirk met with that characteristic slight embarrassment. Grateful, but maybe a little uncomfortable with the fuss. They were cheering his consistency, his authenticity for 2 decades.
Those final years were like a living thank you note to the game and to Dallas.
April 9th, 2019, Dallas. The vibe in the arena. Electric. You just knew this was probably it. His last home game.
Signs everywhere, fans cheering every touch. But Dirk is just Dirk. Modest, present.
And he goes out and has a great game. 30 points. Vintage Dirk. Every basket felt like a memory. Every cheer a thank you. The win was secondary.
Then the lights dim post-game. Dirk at center court, his name echoing.
And that surprise appearance. Barkley, Pippen, Bird, Kemp, Schrempf. Legends standing there for him. He looked genuinely stunned.
Voice cracking during his speech. Short, heartfelt, thanking everyone.
And then the simple words. This is my last home game. The emotion in the building was immense.
Takes that final lap around the court, connecting with fans, staff, a long way from the early boo.
And then walks down the tunnel one last time as a player. No fanfare. Just stepping away from the spotlight he never really saw it, but ultimately defined.
Even 3 years after retiring, his presence is still everywhere in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Highlights the spirit of the franchise.
Absolutely. And his jersey retirement ceremony, January 5th, 2022. Another powerful moment. Full arena. Sea of #41 jerseys.
Seeing that banner go up into the rafters with the other Mavs greats, it felt different somehow. Carried a unique weight for Dallas.
His speech, again, emotional, brief, grateful, felt like integration, his essence becoming part of the building.
But Dallas wanted something more permanent. The statue, unveiled Christmas Day 2022.
A beautiful piece of art. Dirk mid-fadeaway, one leg lifted, perfect form, timeless, with those 3 trailing basketballs symbolizing the repetition.
And the inscription on the base, loyalty never fades away. Perfect.
Dirk standing beside it, humble as ever, understanding these tributes aren't just about him, but about lasting impact. A reminder that greatness can rise quietly and endure.
So wrapping up this deep dive on Dirk Nowitzki, we come back to that central idea, his unique impact. Not explosive dominance, but this. Gradual accumulation, skill, loyalty, consistency, class.
Yeah, he played not just to dominate, but to belong, to contribute. Showed greatness can be quiet, legacy can be earned without ego, brilliance can be found in repetition.
That championship at 32, achieved through sheer perseverance. It felt earned in a deeper way somehow.
And his contribution to Dallas, it's immeasurable, goes way beyond stats. He embodies the best parts of sports. Patience, craftsmanship, humility, loyalty, and just this pure love for the game. Those moments of stillness spoke volumes.
He left behind more than just achievements. He left a blueprint, maybe. A blueprint of grace for players coming up, a testament to the enduring power of quiet greatness.
Absolutely. A legacy built not on noise, but on substance. Quiet greatness that, like the statue says, truly never fades away.